He fetched 100 francs out of his trunk, and handed them in secret to the monk. So secretly the deal was only known to him, this merchant, and St. John alone. They drank and talked and loitered for a spell. Sir John rode back, then to his abbey cell. Day came, the merchant started on his ride to Flanders, with a prentice as his guide, and came at last to Bruges in good condition. Once there he worked in haste without remission, and did his business, borrowed, made advances, and never turned aside for dice or dances, but purely as a merchant, let me say, he spent his time, and there I let him stay. The very Sunday after he had gone, back to St. Denis came the good St. John, now tonsured and with freshly shaven face. There was no little boy in all the place, nor any other person, it was plain, but was rejoiced to see St. John again. And to go shortly to the point indeed, this lovely woman readily agreed to take his 100 francs, and to requite Sir John by lying in his arms all night. And just as was agreed, so it was done. All night they led a life of busy fun, till dawn came. Then with a kindly laugh he left, wishing good luck to all the staff, for not a soul, there or in town about, had formed the least suspicion or the slightest doubt of what had happened. Homewards, or where whim directed, off he rode, no more of him. This merchant, having finished his affairs, turned for St. Denis. Thither he repairs, and cheers his wife with fun and feast and such. But said his merchandise had cost so much that he must needs negotiate in advance, for he was bound by a recognizance. For 20,000 crowns he had to pay. He'd have to go to Paris the next day to borrow certain sums among his friends, which, with his ready cash, would meet his ends. No sooner had he come into town than out of pure affection he got down and called upon Sir John for simple pleasure, and not at all to claim the borrowed treasure, but just to see him, ask how he was doing, and tell him what affairs he was pursuing, as friends will do on their occasional meetings. Sir John was most effusive in his greetings, and he as blithely chatted back and told how prosperously he had bought and sold, thanks be to God, in all his merchandise, save that it was incumbent to devise the reining of a loan at interest. That done, he could afford to take a rest. Sir John replied, "Indeed, I am delighted that you are safely back with matters righted. If I were rich, we all have ups and downs. You should not lack for 20,000 crowns. You were so kind to me the other day, lending me money. All I have to say is many, many thanks. God give you life. But I returned the money to your wife, the sum you lent, and put it in your till at home. She'll know about it. All she will. There was a token. She will understand. And now you must excuse me. It's been planned for me to join the abbot here today. He's going out of town. I cannot stay. Best greetings to my pretty little niece, your wife. Good-bye, dear cousin. Go in peace. Let's hope it won't be long before we meet." This merchant, who was wary and discreet, soon managed to negotiate his loan. The bond that he had signed became his own, for he paid down the money to a franc to certain Lombards at their Paris bank. He left as merry as a popinjay for home, his business done in such a way that he was bound to make, to the extent of fully 1,000 francs more than he'd spent. His wife was there and met him at the gate, just as she always did, and they sat late that night and had a feast. He did not fret, knowing that he was rich and out of debt. At dawn this merchant started to embrace his wife afresh, and kissed her on the face, and up he went and made it pretty tough. "No more," she said. "By God, you've had enough!" And wantonly she gambled for a while, until at last the merchant with a smile said, "I'm a little cross with you, my dear, though I am loath to be so, never fear. Do you know why? By God, or so I guess. You've brought about a sort of awkwardness between myself, I say, and cousin John. You should have warned me, my dear, before I'd gone. that he had paid you back my 100 francs. By ready token, it was little thanks he gave me when I spoke of borrowing money. His face showed plainly that it wasn't funny. But all the same, by God our heavenly King, I had no thought to ask for anything. I beg you not to do it any more. When off on business, I must know before if any debtor has paid you back my pence, unknown to me, in case your negligence should make me ask for what's been paid already. So far from being frightened or unsteady, this wife retorted boldly thereupon, Then I defy that treacherous monk St. John. Him and his tokens, I don't care a bit. He gave me a sum of money, I admit. So what? A curse upon his monkish snout. God knows I had imagined, out of doubt, that he had given it to me because of you to spend on looking smart, on what is due to your position and the friendly cheer you've always shown him as a cousin here. But now it seems that things are out of joint. Well, then, I'll answer briefly to the point. You've many slacker debtors to myself. I'll pay you readily. And as for pelf, if that should fail from sunset to reveille, I am your wife, so score it on my tally. I'll pay you back as promptly as I may. I promise you, I spent it on the way in the way of pretty clothes. It didn't go to waste, but I assure you, in the best of taste, to honor you, for goodness' sake, I say. Don't be so angry, dear. Let's laugh and play. My jolly body's pledged to you instead. By God, I'll never pay except in bed. Forgive me, dearest husband, just this while. Turn round again and let me see you smile. This merchant saw that there was no redress, and that to chide her was but foolishness, since nothing could be done, and was content to say, Well, I forgive you what you spent, but don't be so extravagant again. You must economize, let that be plain. And now my story's done, and may God send us plenty of tallying, till death shall end us. Amen.